So why don't we jump into this first tip? And the first one is to know where your money goes, or in other words, to track your expenses. And you know, I think that's the most important one. Like if you don't have visibility of where your money is going, like things always are going to fall through the cracks. Even if you're like, oh, like I'm aware of what my expenses are, but you're not aware of like where every single dollar is going. Like that to me, like that's what I see so much is people are like, no, I know what all my bills are, right? Like I know what has to get paid and when it has to get paid. But then where's the rest of the money? You know, and if you're not paying attention to where every dollar goes, there's room for things to fall through the cracks and to feel like it's tighter than it really needs to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people live in that space between like, oh yeah, I sort of know my expenses, but they don't actually know where their money's going.
Yeah.
That this step right here, and a lot of these things we're going to say today are super basic because it is basic. You know, you just have to put the work in. But for me, when I started the whole money journey, coming into my debt freedom journey, this was step one, knowing where your money goes. And I literally sat down with a pen and paper and wrote down exactly where I was spending my money. Now, this doesn't mean you need to change anything right away. We just want you to get into the habit and get that muscle going of knowing where your money's going, because then you start to look at it and you're like, okay, you know, your mind is now seeing where things are going rather than it being so mindless and you're just not really paying attention to it. So I think this is probably one of the most important things when it comes to like understanding your expenses.
It's the most important thing. It's probably the simplest thing you can do, but it's also the one where you can really tell like how bad does someone want to make a difference in their life. And I see it all the time where people are like, what can I start doing to improve my finances? I'm like, if you can just have full clarity, full visibility, like, you know, most of the stuff is not, it's not, how do I phrase this? Like it's simple things that you need to do, but it's just hard to do them consistently for years after years. Right. But I always tell people like, hey, just start tracking everything. And chances are you're probably going to notice what are the problem areas, and almost like that sense of guilt that you get when you have to write down like, okay, I went out to coffee like 5 times this week, and then I went shopping, and then I had these random trips at Target. You'll feel a little bit of guilt, especially if these other areas in your life aren't going the way you want them to, and it's related to your finances. You're going to feel that guilt, and naturally you're going to start to say, all right, I don't want to go through that experience of writing that expense down again. So maybe I'll avoid it this time. You know, it's like we've talked about this before, but that's why I see so many parallels between fitness and finances, because it's the same thing. Like if you're trying to lose weight, for example, right? Like it's a simple equation. You either eat less or you work out more or you do a combination of both, right? And the easiest way you can see like why am I not losing weight is just writing down everything you eat, you know, and you'll start to realize, oh man, I'm spending more, I'm eating more than I actually realize. This step is just so important.
Nick, this is so relatable because Eddie and I are doing a mini cut right now, like just a quick, like just a quick summer sort of cut. We're only doing it for like a month, and then you know we're done with it. But and I haven't done anything like this, and I haven't touched my FitnessPal app since it was my bodybuilding days, like 9 years ago. So it's been an interesting thing. But what I will say is, you know, since I haven't done it for so long, I was like really excited to like get back on and start tracking a little bit to see where I'm at. Obviously, when you're in a deficit, like you really need to track, but that's been super helpful for me. Like I have to track everything I'm eating, or I don't realize how much I'm eating. And it's clear how much I was eating whenever now that I'm in a deficit and I'm tracking everything. So exactly like your money, knowing where everything is going is going to be important to, you know, seeing where all of your money's going, what expenses you have, and how to make a plan moving forward. Now, in addition to that, you know, I think tracking your money is a great thing, but now there needs to be a plan along with it. So I think budgeting also comes into play here. So for me, when I started my journey, I just took inventory at first, really wrote down where things were, where they were going. And then I decided what the plan was going to be from there. So that's really what a budget is. You're really just budgeting out all of your expenses. So, and then you can sort of clear things up from there. And that's where the key is to minimizing your expenses. You're going to take those expenses that you've already tracked and then move it into a budget. And if you know, hey, I don't want to be going out to lunch or coffee 5 times a week, then I know I'm not going to budget that much for it, and I'm going to change my ways. So that's how you can reduce your expenses there, through tracking and then creating a budget that matches your lifestyle and how you know, I guess your financial goals moving forward.
100%. And I always tell people too, like this is like a pre-step that you take if you want to start budgeting, like do this first.
Yes.
Because it's going to make the budgeting process so much easier. It's going to make sure that you don't run into so many mistakes or so many like, you know, times during the month you're like, oh man, I probably should have had more money here, or I could have had less money here. Because if you're tracking everything, then you know, all right, when I start my budget, even if like this was like you got to kind of walk into this journey, right? This was the first step. Let me just track it all. All right, now that I'm actually going to sit down and write a budget, how much did I spend last month on groceries? All right, maybe I can kind of modify that number and include it in the budget. Or what are my monthly expenses, right? Like what are my utility bills? What do those typically look like? That's how you can actually get super accurate with a budget.
The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.